Hello everybody, I hope you're having a nice day today. In this little lesson, which is lesson 8.4, we're going to be learning about independent events. So, like all the other flip lessons we've been doing, you take notes right along with me up here on the paper. And here we go. So, first thing we've got to start with are, what are independent events? And this lesson has all to do with probability. So I'm going to have you first write down the definition of independent events. So independent events, plural, are events, it's two or more, where the outcome of one thing has nothing to do with the outcome of the other. So let's write that down, then kind of unpack what it means here. Events where the outcome, we'll say outcomes, have no effect on each other. So there are two or more things that are happening independently of each other, so one won't affect the other. If they affect each other, then they're dependent on each other. They're called dependent events, and that's for another day. So some examples of independent events are if I flip a coin and then I draw a card out of a deck, or if I roll a dice and then flip a coin. They're things that don't have any effect on each other. If they did have an effect on each other, think of all of your names in the cup, and if I've got my destiny sticks out, and if I draw someone's name and then I leave it out of the cup and then I keep drawing, then the chances are smaller, or actually are bigger, because the amount of sticks are smaller. Those are dependent events. We're going to be calculating the probability of independent events, and I'm going to have you just make a little note before we do examples. Calculating the probability is very easy for these things. So to calculate the probability, all you do is you multiply the probabilities. And you want to multiply these probabilities as fractions. So this builds on what we learned about when we learned about probabilities. We're going to keep them as fractions. We're not going to change them into percents. And we're going to multiply them together. Multiplying fractions, we did that in chapter 7. It's one of the easiest things to do with fractions. So the math today is pretty easy. So for a couple of examples here, let's say that I've got a coin. I'm going to slide that down here. We're going to find the probability that I flip heads. Then I pick it up again, and I flip heads again 2 times in a row. So the probability I flip heads, flip it again, flip heads. So for the first time that I flip heads, those are independent events because the first coin flip doesn't affect the second coin flip. So the probability I'd flip heads right away is a half. Then I'm going to get the coin again and flip heads again. The probability that I flip heads again is also 1/2. Just mentioned that if you got independent events and you want to find the probability of both of those things happening, you multiply them together. So a half times a half, I go top times top. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4. So the probability that I'd flip heads twice in a row is 1/4. That's it. Let's go another example. The probability, let's say that I've got a dice with 6 sides and I roll a 4. Then I pick up a coin and flip tails. So those are independent events because the rolling of the dice has nothing to do with the flipping of the coin. So we find the probability of each one. The probability of rolling a 4, well, there's 1 4 out of 6 sides, so that would be 1/6. Then the probability of flipping tails, well, tails is 1 out of 2 chances. And then I multiply that. 1 times 1 is 1. 6 times 2 is 12. So there'd be a 1 out of 12 chance of rolling a 4 and then flipping tails. So math pretty easy. You just calculate your probabilities, multiply them across, and then you're done. Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you draw a line across your paper right there. Straight across. I'm going to have you write problem A and problem B. I'm going to give you 2 problems, and then I'm going to have the video pause, and I'm going to have you and your table partner team up to solve these 2 problems. So, problem A, what's the probability that I take a quarter and flip tails. Then I take a dice and I roll with 6 sides on it, an even number. That's problem A. Problem B, what's the probability that I take a deck of cards with 52 cards in it, and I pick the 4 of clubs, then take a quarter and flip heads. All independent events. So pause the video, you and your partner do those 2 things right now. Okay, check in and see how you did. So the probability of flipping tails on problem A is 1/2. The probability of rolling an even number, well, there's 3 even numbers out of 6. So I did 3 over 6. You also could have done 1/2 right there too. Anyway, the way I did it, 1 times 3 is 3, 2 times 6, 12. That simplifies down to 1/4. You may have just done 1/2 times 1/2 if you knew that half the numbers were, half. And that would get you to 1/4 right away. Either way is good. The second one, there's 1 4 out of clubs out of 52. 1 4 clubs out of 52. And then flipping heads is a half. Multiply those, you get 1 out of 104 as a fraction. And notice we're leaving all these answers as fractions. And if it's possible, kind of like this one up here, to simplify, I'll expect you to be simplifying as well. That's it for this lesson. So I'm going to have you launch off into some classwork right now. And that's it.